Hey guys, Bobby Hughes here with Pride Custom Firearms. In today's video, we're going to get into some die setup and reloading for the Hornady lock and load AP press. Alright, so at this point, if you've seen the other videos, you've seen how to mount your bench, or how to mount your press to the bench, how to set everything up so far. We've installed our primer system. We've also went ahead and installed our shell plate. And we're going to be reloading some 380 auto rounds. Alright, and for handgun rounds, it's pretty much going to be the same. You're going to have pretty much the same dies as far as your decapping, resizing, expander, and bullet seat. So that's pretty much going to be the same, and you can use the same concept for pretty much all handgun rounds. Alright, now rifle rounds is a different process, but for handgun rounds, it's going to be mainly the same. This is going to be in two parts. Alright, the first part of the video is going to be for the dies, which is going to be this video. I'm going to go over the dies, how to install the dies in the bushings, and then and set up the dies in the press. And then in the next video, we'll go over the second video for the powder drop and how to set the powder drop up for pistol drops. And then I will also do a video on 380, my 380 recipe. Alright, so reloading for 380 auto. So anyway guys, just to give you kind of an idea of what we're going to be covering on the next few videos. So let's go ahead and get started on our dies, and we'll get into that. Alright guys, so first let's go over the dies. These are my 380 auto dies. You open up the box and there's going to be some different components and parts and things like that in there. Now these dies I purchased used, so they're a little bit rougher than brand new ones, but they're still in good shape. They're still in great shape actually. So you've got three dies. You've got your bullet seat die, which is the it'll have a adjuster up here for your seat. Now the cool thing about the bullet seat is it also is your crimp die. So there's no need to have a secondary crimp die with Hornady. It'll work for the same way. Alright, and then so the components of it is you have the actual die body, you have your locking ring, and then we have our seating stem, and then our depth adjustment knob. Okay, so that's the components for the bullet seating die. Now another neat feature about Hornady dies is they have this little drop out here in the bottom. That makes for really convenient loading when you're loading small rounds like the 380 or even a 22 caliber for like a 223. Keeps you from pinching your fingers between the press and the die. So that is the bullet seat / crimp die. Alright, now you also have the expander die. Now in other dies such as the Lee dies, your expander die is your powder through die. Not the case with Hornady. It has its own expansion die. This die is very simple. All it is the tighter you go, the more expansion you're going to put on the mouth of your case, making it easier to seat your bullet inside of there. That's all there is to it. The die body with the expander built in and the locking ring. And then our final die is our decapping and sizer die. Alright, so the components to it is obviously the die body, the locking ring, and then we have our tension nut here, and we can back that out and pull out our decapping stem. Alright, and that's all that serves in the case of a 380 is for decapping. Okay, so that is completely adjustable by just loosening it up and threading the rod in or out. Alright, so it makes for very precision adjustments, makes it very easy to do. You'll also get in your dies an Allen key, that's to adjust your locking rings, and most die sets will come with a spare seating stem, and depending on the type of bullet that you're using, sometimes will depend on the seating stem that you use. This seating stem, for instance, is flat, and this one has a concave in it. All right, so obviously we'll want to use the concave for a round type bullet so that it sets nice and flush on there. If you're using something like a wad cutter, then you would use that flat seating stem. Alright? So that is the dies, and the next step of using them with a lock and load AP press is to install the die bushings on them. Just to get us going, we're just going to back our locking ring all the way back and then thread our bushing right down over it to get ready to install them in the press. So go ahead and do that, and then we'll go ahead and install them in our press and get them adjusted for our 380 auto. Alright guys, so we're getting ready to install our dies now in our press, and I'm going to try to get you the best view that I possibly can. And the easiest way to install these dies is one at a time. Alright, so starting with station 1, which is the station in which we would load our round into the, or our case into the shell plate. Starting with station 1, we slide our case in, right? Now on the first upstroke, you'll notice that there's not a station directly under either of these dies, and that's because of the half indexing. Alright, so from the go in, it's going to rotate clockwise. So our first station will be right next to the black plastic thing here. Alright, our first station needs to be our decapping and sizing station. Alright, so we're going to put it in, drop it into the top of the press, and then actually, you know what I'm going to do, just to make life a little bit easier here, to make sure that these lock and load die bushings set. Once you get your die locked into it, you won't have this problem. It's just in the beginning. So we want to make sure that our die bushing goes in and seats 1/8 of a turn. All right, and then we'll drop our decapping resizing die in here. Now we want to take the shell back out. We're going to run our ram all the way up. All right, and then we're going to back our decapping stem out, and then run our sizer right down through until we feel it touch the top of the shell plate. All right, and we don't want to torque it. We just want it to touch the top of the shell plate. So just like that. All right, and then we'll cinch our locking ring down, and we'll use our Allen key to tighten our locking ring down. Alright, once you have your locking ring tightened down, you can go ahead and lower your ram back down, and you'll see here now you can just grab the die itself, and it locks itself into that die bushing, so you don't have to worry about it anymore. Okay, now what we need to do is adjust our decapping rod. Now pretty much what you want to see is just the tip of the decapping rod just barely protruding from the bottom. Alright, in this case I've got my hand on some new cases, so they don't need to be decapped. So I'm just going to run it down just below the line, or the line of sight there. And then I'm going to go ahead and tighten it up. Alright, now we'll try that die out just to make sure that it functions. Put a case in, run it up, size it, and come back down. And looks good. So that's all there is to it. Now if you were decapping, then you would need to adjust your decapping rod so that it sticks out just below the bottom of the of the die mouth here, and then try one out. If it doesn't knock it out, then obviously it needs to go a little bit deeper. Okay. Now when you knock one out, it's going to come out of this tube, out of the bottom. All right, guys. So the next station that we're going to cover will be the expander die station, which will be the second station. We're going to skip the primer station for now. I'm going to go ahead and remove our decapping and resizing die now that it's all set. I'm going to set that aside. I'm going to take my bushing and install it in the top here. and then we want to install our expansion die. All right. Now the expansion die, what we want to do is put a case in the press, run it around till it gets to the primer seat station. We want to go ahead and run this down, get this started in our bushing, and then we're going to raise the ram all the way up. Now what we want to do is increase or continue to seat the expansion die until we feel some resistance on the case. Alright, right there's my resistance. I'm going to go about one full turn from there, and then I'm going to let it down, and I'm going to pull the case out, and I'm going to take one of my bullets, and I just barely want it to seat in the top of the case easily. Alright, just like that, and I want to be able to turn it over and it not fall out. That's a perfect expansion. Alright, so now what I want to do is tighten the lock ring down. Just like that, and that's all there is to it. Alright guys, so our expansion die is installed now, and we can go ahead and leave it in the press for now because we need to expand a case when we get around to there. We're going to skip the next station, which would be our powder drop station. That's going to be in the next video. Our next station is where we're going to put our bullet seat. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and put our bushing in here. Now the magic with the Hornady cedar die or bullet seat die is that it's also a cramp die, and you can run it with a cramp or without a cramp. Alright, now I've found that the easiest way to do this, because the instructions say that you lower the die body until you feel resistance on the case. Well, with handgun rounds, it's hard to feel resistance. So I found that the best way to do it is to go ahead and screw the die body in until it touches the shell plate. Alright, once it touches the shell plate, we want to go ahead and back it out 2 full turns. 1, 2. Alright, once you back it out 2 full turns, go ahead and push your lock ring down. Alright, make sure that your stem, your thumbs, or your seat screw, your seat stem is backed out. We're going to run the bullet up in there with the case. Alright, and then we're going to start adjusting our seating stem until we feel resistance on the bullet. Right there's our resistance. Alright, so it's not going to be enough. So what we need to do is we need to loosen our lock ring up without loosening our bushing, which, there we go. Loosen our lock ring up, and we're going to go ahead and screw it back in the whole die body 1 full turn. Alright, now be sure and back your seating stem back out. Alright, and then run your round back up in the die, and then adjust your seating stem again till you feel resistance. And right there we've got resistance. Alright, so now what we need to do, now you'll just continue to push that in until you get the round seated to the depth that you want it. Okay? So once you get it seated, then you can go ahead and lock this top lock ring down, and that'll give you a nice seat for the depth that you want without a crimp. Now if you choose to crimp it, if you want to crimp it, now this will actually, when you get this set, it'll actually pull the expansion back out of it. But if you want to crimp it in the process, then what you need to do is go ahead and tighten the die body itself. So you'll have to back the nut or back the adjustment screw back out, tighten the die body up about a quarter a turn, and lock it back down, and that'll put a crimp on the case for you. In my case, I'm not going to crimp. so we're not going to worry about that. Okay, so that's all there is to adjusting your seating die. Alright guys, so that's how you set up your dies, the 3 dies for handgun loading. It's a very pretty straightforward and simple process. It's neat having the lock and load bushings there so that you can quickly remove and change the dies out to load another caliber without having to buy shell plates and all, or turret holders and all that stuff. So it's a neat invention, neat setup. In the next video, what we're going to do is go over setting up the powder drop. Alright, so there's 2 videos for the powder drop. One of them I've already done. This one will be video 2, which will be actually putting the powder drop in the press itself and setting it up to drop a charge. Okay, and then the only other video that we need that you'll need to check out is loading your primer tube. Alright, that's a very short video, but it just goes over the basics for loading the primer tube. Alright, so that's pretty much it, guys. Until the next video, get out there, shoot some guns, be safe, and most importantly, have fun. See you guys later.